welcome to JDF 18. Needless to say, are you guys enjoying? Yeah. Okay. This is the first time I'm attending a JDF, and I'm completely enjoying it. So, before we start our session today, we'll be talking about the blockchain with a Salesforce. But before we start our session, let me introduce ourselves. So, my name is Rajat. I'm a senior Salesforce developer at Encapsulate, and I have my colleague with me, Tejas, who is also a senior Salesforce developer at Encapsulate. I have started my career in Salesforce 3 years back, and Tejas started his career in Salesforce almost 5 years back. And we are completely loving the Salesforce as a technology. And that's why we are trying out new things. And today we'll be showcasing something new that is right now not available in Salesforce. So without a further ado, let's get started. So I want to start today's session with this quote. I believe in next couple of years, this will going to be a reality. Across the industry, across the technology, across the business, everybody will be talking about a blockchain. And why I believe so, that we're going to explore it today. Now, let's go back to 90s era when internet was born. Since the inception of an internet, we have created a lot of technology to store the data securely. But if you look at it carefully, there is one pattern which is common. We are using a server-based network, and we have one centralized data storage. So one production copy of a data getting modified each and every time the people are doing a business with each other. Because of that, we are facing some of the serious challenges today. Like, there is a trust is missing between the people who are doing a business. Why? Because there is one production copy, so everybody is modifying one copy. Because of that, anyone can do a backdoor entry and can modify the data. There is no strong verification mechanism right now exist in today's system. Another thing is, we are creating a silos of a data in one centralized storage. So there is a lot of duplication in the data. That issue we face with the Salesforce as well. So the transparency is missing. And since the trust is missing between the people who are doing a business, we require a lot of third-party mediocre system to build a trust by verifying the system, by verifying the data between the people who are doing a business. And that is costing a lot of time and money. Now let's think about it. Instead of having a central data storage and having a server-based network, what if we move to a peer-to-peer network and have a multiple copy of a production data? So now everyone who is doing a business, everyone has their own production copy, and it's a peer-to-peer network. So what are the advantages we are getting because of this? So if I'm selling something to you, I have one copy of an invoice, you have one copy of an invoice. So no one can modify each without the consensus of other person. Because of that, the trust is a hidden part of it. It's a hidden product of this system. And because of this, and the transparency is a consequence in this case. Because everyone has a copy, no one can modify it individually. You have to get the consensus of everyone, then only you can modify it. So transparency is a consequence over here. And since the trust we have, right now we have a trust with the blockchain, so we don't require a third-party mediocres to do a business, which saves a lot of time and money for us. Now, so in the blockchain, so what is a blockchain to say? So right now, so we are talking about what is the centralized storage and the distributed data storage is. So this is the distributed data storage, which is distributed over a peer-to-peer network that is known as a blockchain. So in a nutshell, if I have to say what is a blockchain, blockchain is a data structure to secure your data. It's a simple definition of a blockchain. So now let's take a closer look of a blockchain, like how blockchain works as a technology. So as the name suggests, it's a chain of a block. Now what each block contains? In each block, we have three properties in the block. One is a data, which is a transaction data. Another is a hash. Hash is an encrypted unique key, which can be generated using a hash function. Generally in the blockchain, people use a SHA-256 to generate a unique key, and the previous block has. So that's how we create a chain of a block by using a previous block has as a key to chain the block with the another block. So, and once the block is created into the chain, it's very hard to modify it. And for each and every transaction, it doesn't update the existing block, but it's create a new block into the chain. Now let's take an example. Let's say if someone tries to modify the middle block, which causes the hash of that block to be changed, and because of that, all the following blocks get failed in the verification process because we are following the previous hash in the each and every block. Now let's say in today's time the computer are becoming very powerful, and because of that someone can also calculate the hash for all the following blocks and make your chain verified again. But to avoid this kind of a situation, blockchain has a concept called proof of work. So proof of work is nothing but, in a simple language, it's trying to slowing down the process of a block creation. So in the behind the scene, proof of work runs an encryption algorithm. It validates the entire chain of a block. Once the entire chain of block get verified, then only the new block gets created. So every time proof of work runs, it takes some time. In Bitcoin's scenario, it takes 4 minutes approximately to create a new block. So that's how they can avoid the modification of the block. So proof of work and the hashing mechanism makes it very difficult to modify the block once it is created. Apart from that, I already mentioned that it's a peer-to-peer network, and it's shared across all the entities who are doing a business together. So until and unless you have more than 50% of people in the networks, until and unless you have more than 50% of people are agree to your change, then only this becomes a permanent change in the production copy. Otherwise, it will be an unverified copy, or it's a fraud detection data. So now let's see how the transaction works in the blockchain. Let's say you have initiated one transaction. So for that transaction, one block gets created. In the block, you have a data and the hash. Now that block get broadcasted to each and every people who are doing a business together. So in each and every node, that block get broadcasted. That block get verified at each and every node. If more than 50% of node verified it successfully, then only the block get added to the chain, and your transaction get completed. Now let's think about how can we use this technology into the Salesforce. Does that add any value to our customer? To know about that, let me call Tejas on stage. Tejas, over to you. Want this?
I think I have this one. Okay. Okay. So let's turn buzzword into the breakthrough. Am I audible? Okay. Am I audible? Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's turn this buzzword into the breakthrough. We heard a lot of things on the block and the peer-to-peer network. But where are those things in the Salesforce, right? We are all from the Salesforce background, right? Each one of has our own environments. We are working with the Salesforce objects and database. But where are these peer-to-peer networks, right? So we are all worry about, who will verify my data, right? Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture, as we know. It's a single database server is there. All the customers are sharing their same database. How can we implement the blockchain? Okay, so let's see how we can implement the current platforms that are available in the market that we can integrate with the Salesforce. And since we know the Salesforce has been a platform adopting a new technology, but how can we do right now? How can we address the challenges right now while we are delivering the solutions to the customers on the Salesforce, right? So on the Salesforce side, we can connect to the blockchain network. There are underlying platforms which are available like Heroku, Azure, IBM's underlying technology. On top of that, we can have the Node.js, Ethereum. Many of you might have heard about the Ether. That is a different, which is a cryptocurrency. There is a Ethereum platforms. There is a Java, on top of which we can include the Web3.js to integrate with this blockchain network. It is a peer-to-peer network. It's similar concept where we have the ISP, like all the internet service provider are connected to each other. They are sharing the content distributedly, right? So that's the structure we have, and that's how we can implement using our Salesforce existing environment. Okay, so let's go a little bit deep into the use case. So right now in the industry, there is a healthcare domain. We see there is a huge potential where we see a lack of three things like trust, data security, and the transparency, right? When we go to the hospitals or consult with any insurance company, basically three stakeholders comes into the picture, right? And we might need a consensus in between these three stakeholders. Even we know each other, but we don't want to trust. So we need a framework, some framework which can get all these three stakeholders onto the platforms and make a process transparent, right? So that's where blockchain can play a role. Okay, so here is a simple example. There is a policy holder we can consider as a patient as well, is because he might need to go to the hospitals, and there is another stakeholder which is an insurance company. So policy holder is communicating with both the parties, insurance company and the hospital. So his patient or the policy holder is sharing the data to these stakeholders. He might be concerned, right? All the disease or whatever the informations, biometric informations are getting shared. So there is a blockchain. Through the hospital collects the data. They sends those data into the chain of this network, right? Blockchain network. There is something called smart contract. What is that smart contract? So the thing that we were talking about, who brings all these stakeholders onto the same page. So that's where a smart contract comes into the picture. So in the physical world, in the real life, we have the agreements, right? Like all the parties get signed onto some agreements, come onto the agreements. So here there is a similar thing which is called as a smart contract, which is nothing but a software program which brings all the stakeholders onto the same page and validates the transaction. So there is no need to be no need to make a trust onto the person, but software will take that part on that behalf. So maybe we can go a little bit deep into the use case specific. So we have a four micro level use cases for healthcare industry to be precise, and we will be showcasing a little bit demo like how the block gets created and we got the response. But before we go for the demo, let's see what are those 4 use cases that we can implement. So very simple use case where once the patient goes to the hospital, he submits his all the informations. Hospital will send across his details through the smart contract to the network of blockchain. Again, network, that means all the persons, all the nodes are there in the network who will be verifying the transactions. Okay, so that is the first use case. Your transactions gets transparently, securely gets into the blockchain in the networks. Okay, next thing, once hospital has put across his patient data, patient or the policy holder which he will be approving. So since there is a chain of network, everybody is onto the same network, everybody is verifying the transactions. Patient can verify his transactions, smart contract will play the role and will validate the amounts, the policy, whatever the patient has taken care. Again, a software program which validates the transactions, and if it gets valid, it gets moved into the blockchain. So similarly, the all blocks gets created into the network of blockchain. What is the next use case? So this is the entire cycle, how the healthcare typical industry gets work. Third one is the hospital on behalf of patient initiates the claim. This is the process when patient gets all the treatment satisfactory. Hospital will initiate the claim on behalf of patient, because hospital, insurance company and patient all are on the same page. All the stakeholders are working transparently on network of blockchain. So all the transactions are transparent. So insurance company will see the transactions through the smart contract. They will have all the conditions. So all the business logic is going to be a part of the smart contract, and insurance company can reimburse that amount to the hospital on behalf of the patient, because patient has taken the policy from that insurance company. So this is a very simple use case of the healthcare industry that we see how we can eliminate the trust factor or the unethical things which are going on. We can track the drugs through this technology blockchain. So maybe we would like to go into the Salesforce environment and let's see how exactly these transactions gets happened and we get the hash. So so let me talk about some little bit about demo that we have prepared. So we have used the Heroku platform on which we have hosted our node application, and we have taken Ethereum as a platform for blockchain. So blockchain is a technology we have taken Ethereum as a platform to use that technology. So we have implemented that Ethereum in our Salesforce environment, and this is a typical example where patient has get on board to the hospital, and now hospital is starting the initiation of the patient. So on behalf of the hospital, right now Rajat will click on the initiate admission button. That will create a transaction through the blockchain network. It will go to the smart contract. All the nodes right now at this moment will verify the transactions. All the data will be collected. Once it's validated. So when we say validated, that means it will get the consensus of more than 50% of the parties who are there in the network. Okay, so that's where we will be getting the response with the hash. So this is something called as a patient admission block hash. So which is again a SHA-256 encrypted code which will represent your transaction into the network of blockchain. So similarly, next thing in the cycle was to approve the admission. So again, on behalf of the patient, in actual real life scenario, patient can directly approve from his mobile devices or any gadgets he might be using it. Or on behalf of patient, his relatives can do these things and can approve the admissions. So again, a transaction will go to the network, and whatever the nodes or a person who is mining the transactions, who is validating the transaction, is called a miner. So miner will validate the transactions, and by the permission of 50% plus consensus, that will return a new hash value. So that is then again a new hash value coming in. So similarly, our third use case was to initiate the claim. Patient got a satisfactory treatment from the hospital. Hospital will initiate the claim. For example, this amount. So this amount will go to this network of blockchain. Now all the stakeholders are on the network. So hospital neither need to send an email to the insurance company, neither patient has to cooperate with the hospital nor with the insurance company. Every transactions get captured in the chain of network. Everyone is seeing the transactions, verifying the transactions, and it's encrypted. So no data is getting leakage. So it's virtually impossible to read the transactions. Yes. So now it's a claim amount being raised by the hospital and the hash for that. And the last one is the approving the claim on behalf of the insurance company. So right now we are seeing the single page where we have 4 buttons, but in a real life scenario we might have the community where we have a different stakeholders using the same platform of the Salesforce, and we might have the lot of transactions. So there is a lot of big objects. We can use the big objects with the platform events and the other features on the Salesforce. So when we approve the claim, a new hash will come for the approving. So all these transactions coming with their different hash value. Now the biggest advantage of the blockchain is if you cannot modify the transaction once it is made. So that means once the block gets into the network of blockchain, you cannot modify the same block. It will be again a new block. So that is called as an immutable. Okay. So we can see all these transactions are having a different blocks and different hash, which are the encrypted values. So these are the pretty much use case for healthcare industry, which we try to demonstrate for a simple scenario. There is a lot of industries in the market which are using the blockchain, which are also on the Salesforce platform, but they are using or making integrations with the platforms which are available. But there is a huge potential that Salesforce start adopting a technology that we have seen the tendency of artificial intelligence, the other companies, MetaMind acquired by Salesforce. So similarly, there is a huge tendency. So what was the advantage that we got when we implement the healthcare industry use cases? So currently we all know, right, we have the limited access to data. As a patient, we might not have all the visibility to our private data, what hospitals are getting it on behalf of us. The inconsistent rules, like everybody is putting his rules. No, nothing like smart contract. We are not agreeing on the terms. Some cases we might not want to agree on some terms. And timely access of the transactions and the cost definitely. So, and with the blockchains, we are able to see with the help of smart contracts, the software itself making the system reliable. and the real-time updates as we see the hash values. So similarly, if there is a huge data coming in, we can see the real-time hash value, encrypted values coming in, and definitely it's reduced the transaction cost. Yeah, we have the question answer just almost complete. So that's where we have this health industry. So as I was speaking about, right, what are the different industries in the market? We have the insurance domain, banking domain, government, private sectors, shipping, supply chain, and this financial banking industries. So in one of the event, even the Mark Benioff has also mentioned that maybe in the March this year, they are also adopting a cryptocurrency and the blockchain solutions. And one of their event, they said, what if they do this, and this, they might come up with the better solutions. So that's the potential in the Salesforce platform. We have been seeing that they are trying to adopt the new technology, and as we know, trust is the key factor for the Salesforce. So that being said, I would like to end my session with the forum opening for the question and answer. And if we might not able to answer with limited time, you may reach out to us on Twitters, and we have booth at Encapsulate, so maybe we can connect there as well. Yeah.
Hello. As we were showing that hash value, when we will get a real data.
Right. So that hash value is coming from the blockchain network itself. So blockchain network is peer-to-peer network. Everyone in the networks are validating the transactions. Once the transactions gets validated, it goes to all the peers who are there in the network. It's like internet network where everyone will validate. So more than 50% gets validate the transaction. The block will be created in the network, and once the block gets created, that is the property of block will be returned to the Salesforce environment. So through these integrations, so like through Ethereum platform to our node server to our integration in the Salesforce database.
Like currently we see a front end of it. So how to implement it back end, that all blockchain part?
A very good question. So that is a very technical deep question, like how we implement. So there, as I said, right, it's a node based application we hosted onto the Heroku, and behind the scenes we also use the Ethereum platform. So Ethereum platform has their Solidity framework in which you will write your JavaScript, which is basically a contract, a software program. So that is a high level abstract, like what we did as a part of this demo. If you want to see the actual part of behind the scenes, you can visit our booth, or maybe we can connect, because it might be interesting.
So
it's a lot.
Okay, Dada.
Yeah, we have that ready part. So right now, whenever we saw the transaction, it was coming from the network only.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So so in this demo, essentially Salesforce part plays as a client's role, and what you have is it actually connects to a Ethereum server, and what you are getting back is just the hash. So it's really not that Salesforce is, or the Salesforce client is kind of participating in the verification process, but it is still outside.
Yes. So because it's a potential technology which Salesforce we might able to see in the upcoming Dreamforce conference that Mark Benioff has committed, but we cannot comment. Yeah.
Next question.
Through REST or API or something else?
So yeah, it's based on REST API. Yes, sir. Yes.
Already in place, right?
Yes.
Why would I go outside of Salesforce and sort of use a blockchain?
Very good question. Again, since we know, right, it's a multi-tenant architecture. All the customers' data for you, for example, your Arc data, you are able to see. But the backend architecture, right, on the Salesforce side, there will be a single database server where all the customers' data are going into, right? So customer might have the issue with the trust and the technology behind the scenes. What if database gets stuck? Everybody will lose the data, or might be stuck for some time, because all the shared data are there on the single premises. Now think about what if we have a multiple database structure where more than 50% parties are validating your transactions. So even if one system is making a hack in your database, other party will verify your transactions, and if goes up to more than 50%, then your transactions will be validated. So how about that trust level?
So Salesforce, so we are challenging a Salesforce trust over here, okay?
No, so I mean,
Salesforce have enough stress on a trust and security.
Right.
On the top of that, they have a platform encryption. Okay, so platform encryption is something like your whole data in the platform get encrypted, right?
Right.
So on the top of that, adding blockchain would,
Yes, so definitely, Salesforce has been doing its trust thing on the platform level, but again, it's a multi-tenant architecture again right now. So that's why Salesforce has been open-minded in adopting a new technology. For example, artificial intelligence as well. Similarly, there is a trust level factor. There is an encryption platform, sealed, everything is there. But again, it's a part of multi-tenant architecture, right? There is a huge potential where the new technology is coming in and grasping the market, and Salesforce has a tendency to adopt new technology and see, and if that works out for a security perspective, it's good. I mean, even I'm not able to. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think so. Just to answer this question, look. What they are not challenging, first of all, Salesforce security. Salesforce is a secure platform for sure. The difference is the transaction that you have made, right? That transaction you can still go and modify. So what Salesforce offers as a security, it's a security on the database level. So for example, as an outsider, I cannot go and maybe see it. So I cannot access this information. What they are talking about and what's the beauty of blockchain is that nobody can really change that transaction without getting noticed. Now here the difference is you can still, if you have access, if you are let's say an operations guy, right? You are a developer, for example, you can go and you can very well go and change the data because you have access to data. The difference between and so it's not really just Salesforce is just one of the systems. The participating system has to actually verify your transaction. So the beauty is the trust comes. So for example, you and me are communicating or transacting, right? We need a third party to verify our transaction, right? You don't need that because there is no way you can actually change the transaction. I'm not saying that you cannot make new transaction. You cannot change the transaction once it has happened without updating all the hashes before it. So yeah, after it. Sorry. Yeah.
For that statement, actually, here also people can hide to modify the transaction. But
Hello.
Days to calculate and show the exact, hash code. Yeah, that's it. But here also this happens. But the thing is, it will take a lot of time. It takes a lot of CPU power. It takes, even supercomputers can't hack it. So. Yeah.
I would like to add, so for this shield encryption, so if you might be using that, so you might know that there is also limitations. So shield encryption doesn't support all the fields. So for example, it does not support the peak list values and all. Yeah. So there are such limitations are also there. Apart from that, so this is also one big advantage.
But to answer, to make you a little bit comfortable on the Salesforce, you are having a concern, right? So blockchain itself has a little bit challenges in the market. There is a lot of debates going on. It's a new buzzword, right? So there is a concern of large data, all those things, where Salesforce can play a role with the big objects and all those things. But yeah, there is a debate going on in the market about these distributed ledgers, huge data coming into the networks. But yeah, so eventually it is going on the right track, maybe we can say, and we can end it with that note, maybe. Yeah.
It's not a question as such. When Salesforce is talking about blockchain as a technology and implementing blockchain in Salesforce, I just wanted to understand, do you have any practical use case? How would it help developers, if it is technology, that we would implement it for our customers. Why? Because blockchain on a whole is a very big thing.
Yeah.
And
So to answer your question, maybe the right answer would be we should wait for the Dreamforce which is coming in. Let the Salesforce announce themselves how the architecture going to be happen behind the scenes, and we might not want to comment on that part because yeah, so usage, there is a lot of industry like supply chain. So there is a video recently uploaded on the Salesforce website. So I may recommend that video. Maybe I can post you video on Twitter or maybe some other. Yeah, definitely. So there is a one video how that blockchain is implemented on the Salesforce. Yeah. No.
Yeah, thank you all. So we have
swag for two
just wait for
best queries. So speaker will decide two best queries and we will have swag.
best questions who have asked. We're going to give a prize.
You will decide.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Trust. Yeah. Second one. Yeah. Yeah. This one. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys. It's a
Thank
tea
you.
break time.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.